Well, the first thing that I remember is that it was very scary for me. I wasn't completely out, and it was one of those early ones that went from downtown up Fifth Avenue, and I was worried about who was going to see me there. So that was the scary part. I wore very, very big sunglasses, and there were people that had bags over their heads, but I didn't go that far. And it was completely different than Pride is now. The numbers were very small. People were concerned about those that were not completely out. It was a very different community and a very different time. And now, I mean, it's like being old enough to see 3 generations of LGBT people enjoy a measure of freedom, such as it is. Civil rights, the struggle never ends. It doesn't end. It just doesn't. You have to remember that when I came on the board, that particular board was following one of the many incarnations of a Pride board. And the most recent one had failed. There was a debt. Money was owed. There were businesses that were owed money. It just was apparently a financial failure. Our goals and it's wonderful to see, to be here and be able to say our goals, everything that we wanted came true. First and foremost, to get it out of debt, to get it in the black, to make it pay for itself. We had long discussions about the fact that we didn't want to take away from the other needs in the community. We didn't want to be fundraising in competition with the work to eradicate AIDS and to educate around AIDS, women's health issues, which were very neglected and very much on the back burner. We felt that there were far more important things that people should be giving their money to than Pride, that we should make Pride pay for itself. It's done that. And we also had this what we thought was a really big wish and a big dream was not only for it to pay for itself, for it to give back. It was very significant, if only from the perspective of a person of color. Vertez and I had been serving together on the board, and boards sort of like to rotate the leadership, and it kind of became our time. And there were people who promoted that idea. Joe Mayer is one of those folks, among others. But Joe sticks in my mind because Joe always played a significant role. And Vertez and I just liked each other from the moment we laid eyes on each other. And we sort of, when we met each other on the Pride board, it was great in that we didn't know each other. But she'd have heard of me, I'd heard of her, and she was like this famous in San Diego black lesbian, and I always wanted to meet her. And then I got to be on the Pride board with her. We really hit it off. We saw eye to eye on a lot of issues and in a lot of areas. And so it was this great opportunity for her and I to work together in a leadership role. We had lots of discussions about tobacco money and whether we would, and we didn't. But the discussion came up more than once. Tobacco companies wanted to give money. They wanted to buy friends. They wanted to buy advertising, and so on. And people, and even at that time, there were people on the board who smoked or still smoked. It hadn't become so important, a health issue, that people were still smoking more than they are now. So it was a long, hard discussion. And the other one was about alcohol, and hard alcohol, and beer and wine, and how far did we go? How far would we go with the alcohol? You know, the question always was, well, you're going to turn away one addiction, cigarettes, but you're going to take money from the other addiction. So it was this kind of balancing act of how to and how not to. There was also something that I was very proud of at the time. It was about ads in the program, ads in the Pride program. Were we going to have really suggestive, sexually, explicitly suggestive ads, nude bodies, whether it was rear nudity or partial front or whatever. And it made me so proud to be at the table of a group of people that said, no, we don't want to have this really objectifying ads, and that we wanted to approve any ads or disapprove of them, and that we were willing to turn away advertising money that was too racy, that was too objectifying. I mean, the whole bottom line on that discussion was that too many times in gay publications, and I think it's still going on, that we objectify human forms. We objectify women. We objectify men. It's, I think, probably more prevalent in the male community, but still, we felt that a Pride program should embody the best of what our community has. And we didn't feel that it was necessary to promote that overt sexuality and take a break from it in one publication. And we actually, there was one ad that wanted to come in, and we said, it'll be all right if they'll agree to put a towel over the body parts that we're showing. And we thought, well, it's not going to happen. They will want to run the ad, and they won't want to run the ad, and they'll be unhappy with us. And much to our surprise, they put a towel on, and the ad went. It was an awful experience. We were all prepared. Everything was ready to roll. We started from 6th Avenue, and we would roll from there. And you know, Pride always runs on time. It has a history of that. We were going to roll exactly at noon, and rain was happening for a couple of days. It was predicted to happen again. We were out there. The floats were there, the trucks were there, the rain was coming down, the crepe paper was dripping, drag queens were running for shelter, their wigs. It was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? You know, nobody's going to come, nobody's going to go to the festival. We're going to go, you know, all of our best laid plans, we're going to be in debt, you know, and we were just really downhearted and just sort of standing there, and it's getting closer and getting closer. And I looked at Joe Mayer, and Joe had this look of absolute despair, deadpan despair. And he just looked at me, he turned at me, and he said, we're going to be having bake sales, you know that? Are you ready for that? And I said, whatever it takes, you know, it was, but we had to laugh. And then, like a miracle, it stopped raining. And the parade rolled on time, and the people showed up, and wet or not, the floats went, and people were out there on the street. It was really amazing, and that caused us to move it. We said, okay, we'll move it into July, when there can't be, you know, a snowball's chance that there will be rain, that we'll move it so far ahead that we'll move it into July. We'll never have to worry about rain again, because we were really, we just saw our profit going down the tubes and saw ourselves going into debt, and it was the last thing we wanted. He was a professional. He really, he knew how to produce events. He knew how to do those large, such coordination goes into dealing with public agencies, the park, the city, the police department. The logistics are staggering. And then the festival is a whole other logistical parade of things. And then there are the volunteers. The incredible volunteers, love the years, and there are still people who are volunteering now who were volunteering then, back in those days. Without the volunteers, there's nothing, there's no pride. But he handled it all like an absolute pro. He was so organized, everything, and it had never been that organized until Tim came along. And, everything had its place, everything had its particular discussion, and everything had its manager. And it was organizationally, it was completely professional. And which made, our lives on the board very easy, made us very, very happy. And it further defined the role of the board. As it got more professional, the board became less of a hands-on board and became more in the direction of what a board should be, and that is for an organization like Pride, overseeing the fiscal management and developing policy.